Please rise, if you wish, for the invocation and the pledge. Dear God, this weekend, when a horrific scene unfolded in Lake County, we were reminded of the grave risks those who protect us face daily. We ask for your comfort for the family, friends, and co-workers of Deputy Bradley Michael Link, who lost his life. We are grateful that Master Deputy Harold Howell and Deputy First Class Stefano Gargano have survived their gunshot wounds. We ask for healing of their injuries and the repercussions of experiencing such a situation. We are grateful for those who protect our community. Help us to express that appreciation regularly. We ask that you protect them as they protect us. As we consider the matters before us this evening, give us wisdom, knowledge, and understanding that we may make the best decisions for those who have entrusted us to represent them. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This is the regular City Council meeting for the month of August. City Clerk, would you do the roll call, please?
Councilmember Sell.
Here.
Councilmember Papalardo.
Here.
Councilmember Stevenson.
Here.
Mayor Chazet.
Here.
Vice Mayor Butlin.
Here. As this is the regular meeting, there is time for public participation for items not on the agenda, 3 minutes per speaker. I would call to the podium Althea King.
Good evening. My name is Althea King. I am a representative of the women in NAACP. Good evening, City Manager and Commissioners. We are actually having an event here in the Barry Country Club to be exact, on October the 18th. So this is kind of what I would say a public formal invitation for all of you to attend. You will be formally invited through correspondence through either myself or one of our members from Women in NAACP West Volusia branch. So please, I would love for you guys to attend. Again, it's in October. It's really supporting domestic violence in West Volusia County. We're looking to hopefully award more than 2 participants, women that are survivors of domestic violence. So we're looking to celebrate them, and also to celebrate women in the West Volusia area that are women-owned businesses. So that's what we really like to also promote at this luncheon. So thank you, and again, look forward to seeing you there, and you will be getting your formal invitation, and I'll just leave a flyer with the clerk.
City Clerk. Yes. Thank you. Okay, Bryant Applegate.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. Bryant Applegate for the record. And I'm here tonight representing the DeBarry Plantation Community Association and Unit 13. I'm here tonight really to request just 2 things. One, that the council direct the city manager, who, by the way, I have nothing but great respect for. We all would agree he's done a great job for this city. And I have great respect for the law firm that represents this city. We go back probably too far than we want to consider right now. So I want you to know that the issues that I'm going to be talking about, and it's only going to take a minute, it's not about personalities. But I think it's important that I wanted to get that out of the way. But we're asking tonight that the council direct the city manager to place on the agenda for your first meeting in September, allotting 45 minutes in order that the association can present our side on the dispute over stormwater pipes. Over the past year, you've heard 2 45-minute presentations from the city manager without any notice to the association or the general public that would have allowed citizens to respond to those presentations at those particular meetings. Secondly, and as you know, the association, based on the magistrate's ruling, we have already started repairing the pipes that were the subject of the hearings. So the second request is to direct the city manager to agree with my client to abate for 90 days the appeal filed by the association of the rulings. This will allow time for the two sides to negotiate a settlement without the expense of more legal fees for the city. Any work that will be done on settlement issues involving attorneys, I will be doing. And I think most of you know I am representing the association on a pro bono basis, so I'm not charging the association. So the only attorney fees that you'll be saving are your own. As part of the second request, though, we are respectfully requesting that you instruct the city manager that it is okay to meet with citizen representatives of the association without legal counsel being present from either side. If and when an agreement is reached, then the lawyers can put the finishing touches on what we hope is a settlement agreement. Now, when I say good faith negotiations, that does not mean take it or leave the room. We're asking that the city manager and members of the association negotiate in good faith and to try and reach a settlement. And we hope we can work together in reaching that settlement to avoid possible lawsuits over, one, taxation without representation, two, ownership of the pipes located in city right-of-way, including those under your streets and your sidewalks. The third lawsuit would be who's responsible for the repairs. And the fourth lawsuit, possible lawsuit, would be how could there be a change in major city policy without council approval? Now, again, we hope to avoid all that litigation, but if you're not willing to abate the current appeal and instruct the city manager to meet with the representatives of the association without worrying about attorneys being in the room and to negotiate in good faith, then I think we're going to be in for a long road ahead of us.
Okay,
So-
I need you to wrap it up.
I'm sorry?
I need you to wrap it up time-wise.
Okay. I hope I have prepared motions, and I have copies of them that you can consider tonight. And if I may approach the clerk and hand those out for distribution.
You may do so, but as you can see in public participation, we will listen intently, and there are various ways we respond, but it is not our practice to immediately take up an issue, as you can see on the screen. So you may give them to the city clerk for distribution.
Right, and I was the county attorney for 12 years in Seminole. I know you can waive your own rules in certain circumstances, if you choose.
Thank you. City Attorney, would you like to respond to the representative?
Glad to, Mayor, council members. This is a surprise, I think, probably to the council and to me that you had this presentation without any advance notice. So it's kind of interesting. We are in adverse legal proceedings with DeBerry Plantation. They did file an appeal and challenge the special magistrate's rulings. So my suggestion tonight is follow the city council's process and procedures, and I'll be glad to discuss the matter that Mr. Applegate has brought up with the city manager, and then if necessary and appropriate, I'll discuss that. The city manager can discuss that either in an executive session, because we are in litigation, in an administrative process, or one-on-one. So my suggestion also is not to respond at this point because we are in adverse legal proceeding at this point.
Okay, thank you very much.
Madam Mayor, may I respond to that?
This is not a back and forth. This was public participation for my items not on the agenda, which is, and I did give you the grace of a significant amount of extra
No,
time.
you didn't. It was about 3 minutes.
Okay.
And you know,
You did. I was watching it and I let it go for a good while after the time was over.
your message is very clear to how you treat the association. Thank you.
The next item on our agenda is the approval of minutes. These would be for the regular city council meeting of July the 3rd, 2024, and the special city council meeting July the 17th, 2024.
I'll make a motion to approve the regular city council meeting minutes for July 3rd, 2024, and the special meeting on July 17th, 2024.
Second.
Vice Mayor Butlin?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Yes.
Councilmember Papalardo?
Yes.
Councilmember Sell?
Yes.
And I am a yes. Are there any additions, deletions, or amendments to the agenda? Hearing none, we move on to the consent agenda.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda, items 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 on the agenda.
Second.
That was you, Bill? Okay. Vice Mayor Butlin?
Yes.
Councilmember Sell?
Yes.
Councilmember Papalardo?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Yes.
And I am a yes. Agenda item number 8 is the public hearing. The staff is requesting the City Council approve the second reading of ordinance number 08, 2024, amending the text of the comprehensive plan, the plan, public facilities element to add objective 7B.4 and policies therein, addressing the feasibility of providing sanitary sewer services to certain existing residential developments within a 10-year planning horizon. City Attorney, would you read ordinance number 08, 2024?
Yes, Mayor, ordinance number 08-2024, an ordinance of the City of DeBary, Florida, amending the text of the public facilities element of the City of DeBary Comprehensive Plan to create objective 7B.4 and policies 7B.401, 7B.402, 7B.403, and 7B.404 to address the feasibility of providing sanitary sewer services within a 10-year planning horizon to those residential developments of 50 or more residential lots containing more than one on-site sewage treatment and disposal system per 1 acre, providing for severability, conflicts, and an effective date.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Stephen Bapp, Growth Management Director. This is the second reading of the said ordinance. Just background on the situation, on May 30th of last year, the House bill was signed into law requiring us to analyze only the feasibility of providing sanitary sewer services within a 10-year period, as stated, to more than 50 residential lots that have more than one on-site treatment system per acre, or septic, as the layman would state. On May 15th, 2024, the City Council approved the first reading of this ordinance. This ordinance was transmitted to the state to their various agencies, to which they had no objection. Oh, okay. No problem. I'm sorry. Ordinance highlight, this really amends the public facility element and specifically objective 7B4 to identify residential units exceeding more than one on-site sewer treatment system. If we look at our map, we've done analysis, and the map outlined in red would be the area which would require said service. And since Volusia County provides all our water and sewer services, we have coordinated this element with them prior to the first reading. They've reviewed our ordinance and they approved our proposed language. Our findings are that this proposed ordinance is compatible with the objectives of the comprehensive plan. The proposed ordinance will not have any effect on infrastructure, as it is a analysis only and does not require us to install said services, and only addresses the feasibilities, and it does not impose any monetary burden on the city. So therefore, we recommend the City Council adopt the ordinance 8-2024. Once adopted, it will have 31 days until it goes into effect from the date we send tonight's outcome to the Department of Commerce. Thank you.
Thank you. City Clerk, do we have any public participation?
No, ma'am, we do not.
Councilmember Sell, questions or comments?
No questions.
Councilmember Papalardo?
No questions.
Councilmember Stevenson?
No questions.
Vice Mayor Butlin?
No questions, thank you.
And I have no questions. This was a second reading. I would entertain a motion.
Okay. I make a motion to approve the second reading of ordinance 08-2024, the proposed plan text amendment to add subjective 7B.4 to policies herein.
Second.
Vice Mayor Butlin?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Yes.
Councilmember Papalardo?
Yes.
Councilmember Sell.
Yes.
Agenda item number 9. Staff is requesting the City Council approve the first reading of ordinance number 12-2024, amending the comprehensive plans, future land use element, and future land use map to create new agricultural FLUM classifications and to reclassify certain properties. City Attorney, would you read ordinance number 12-2024?
Yes, Mayor. Ordinance number 12-2024, an ordinance of the City of DeBary, Florida, amending the text of the future land use element of the City of DeBary Comprehensive Plan to amend Policy 5.401 to create the agriculture/open space future land use A/OS, the agriculture/rural A/R future land use, and the agriculture/rural transitional A/RT future land use, amending the future land use map of the City of DeBary Comprehensive Plan to implement the new A/OS, A/R, and A/RT future land use designations by amending the future land use designation of certain parcels of land throughout the city limits currently designated agriculture/rural A/R, providing for severability, conflicts, and an effective date.
Thank you very much. I'm Stephen Babb, Growth Management Director again. I will be presenting this case. This is really to clean up our future land use map and to add some flexibility in our zoning densities. Currently, we have an agricultural rural classification that covers many different zoning districts within our city, especially in the western part of our city. But right now, that density falls in a density of 1 dwelling unit per 5 acres, or 0.2 dwelling units per acre. The lowest density permitted after that in our future land use is 4 dwelling units per acre. And most of the areas in the city that are classified AR are within zoning classifications which are incompatible with that land use. The chart you see before you illustrates the leap in our densities. AR, which is a lot of our western portions of our city, it's really 0.2 dwelling units per acre. Then we jump to our normal residential land uses, which is 4 dwelling units per acre. There is no bridge between those two land uses, and this has been brought up in discussions previously among staff and members of the council and the community. If we tie this density to our lot sizes, the bar on the right indicates AR density, which would require a 5-acre lot. The only one out of the 4 zoning classifications which fall under this density is the A2, which directs a minimum lot size of 5 dwelling units per acre. Thus, that is the land use that's consistent. Our other 3 zoning lot minimum sizes do not match that prescribed density. RA, which is at 1 dwelling unit for 2.5, does not meet that density, nor does the RR or A3 zoning classifications, which direct a minimum lot size of 1 acre. So thus the inconsistency. What we plan to do is amend and remedy the inconsistencies of these properties so their zoning and future land use are consistent with each other. How we're going to do this is we're going to take our current land use classification, which is called AR, and split it into 3 density classifications. One would remain the same at 1 dwelling unit per 5 acres, but then we would create 2 new density requirements. One at 2.5 dwelling units per acre, and then 1 dwelling unit per acre for the new agricultural rural transition classification, which we feel was more intent of the original comprehensive plan. How this affects properties, these are subdivisions and some individual properties that we've analyzed in the western part of our city, which the current density restrictions do not meet the current lot sizes. The proposal would clean that up, and thus the second column is the current land use, and then the far column would be the new land use. There would be no vested rights or anything lost in this. It It would only be a reclassification to make the existing zoning consistent with the new land use. The proposed ordinance we've analyzed is consistent with the existing goals, objectives, and policies of the comprehensive plan. The proposed ordinance will have no effect on infrastructure or public facilities, and the ordinance would correct the inconsistencies we have between the future land use and the zoning map, while also combating urban sprawl. It is thus recommended the City Council approve the first reading of this ordinance. And the implementation process, since this is a large-scale comprehensive plan amendment, this would be transmitted to the state. The state would have their 30-day review period for all the reviewing agencies and then give us the findings. If all these findings, if these are found to be consistent with state law, the second reading would take place before the City Council. Thank you. And also, we will have a follow-on amendment to the Land Development Code, which would be consistent with this proposed ordinance. Thanks.
Thank you. City Clerk, do we have any public participation?
No, ma'am, we do not.
Okay. Councilmember Sell, questions or comments?
If I'm a current landowner that's undeveloped and it's got its current classification as AR, 1 unit per 5 acres, with us tonight, if we were to pass this, what effect would that have on me as the property owner of something that's not developed yet?
Well, it depends. You have land use, which is the density, and then you have the zoning classification, which should direct things such as lot size, setbacks, et cetera. So if you had a AR, you would be the same as you are right now. So you would have, let's say you have a land use classification of RR, which is 1 dwelling unit per acre. You would now, your land use would say 1 dwelling unit per acre instead of 1 dwelling unit per 5 acres. Did I answer your question?
Would I have to apply for anything,
No.
do anything on my end?
No.
No, it wouldn't.
It's simply a
negatively-
change of the overlying future land use map. That would be transmitted to the state for review, come back. If approved and approved on a second reading, we would update the land use map. The zoning and vested rights in the zoning would not change.
As the landowner, no negative impact on
No
me.
negative impact. Your setbacks would remain the same. Your uses on that property would remain the same. It's only a density inequation, but that's been there for 20 years. We're trying to correct.
Thank you.
Yep.
Councilmember Papalardo?
I appreciate the expansion of these particular types of zoning measures, and it might create some desired flexibility when development requests are made that would put us at risk of unintentionally greater densities. So I really, I think this is an excellent step in the right direction to mitigate a lot of those density risks. Thank you.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Thank you for the presentation. I would echo the comments that Councilmember Papalardo just said, that I think that this clarifies a lot with the zoning and could actually be more helpful with the flexibility. So thank you.
Okay.
Vice Mayor Butland?
Thank you, Mayor. There's nothing more than I like about house cleaning. I love making things clear and straightforward and understandable. And I think this definitely does that. So I appreciate it. Thank you for the staff and everyone that put this together. That's it.
And I would echo those sentiments as well. And you know that I've brought up not long ago my concern about us paying attention to the remaining agricultural land in our city and making sure that we handle this properly over time. And to me, this is a much stronger foundation for our evaluation of things going forward and what's appropriate and what isn't appropriate in the various areas without abridging anyone's current entitlements.
Right.
If there's no further discussion, I would entertain a motion.
Move to approve the first reading of ordinance number 12-2024, amending the comprehensive plan's future land use element and future land use map to create the new agricultural farm classifications and reclassify certain properties.
Second.
Councilmember Papalardo?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Butland?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Yes.
Councilmember Sell?
Yes.
And I am a yes. Agenda item number 10, the staff is requesting the City Council approve the first reading of ordinance number 13, 2024, amending the Land Development Code to update the zoning future land use compatibility matrix in accordance with ordinance number 12-2024. City Attorney, would you read ordinance number 13-2024?
Yes, Mayor. Ordinance number 13-2024, an ordinance of the City of DeBary, Florida, amending Chapter 4, Article Roman 1, Section 4.2 of the City of DeBary Land Development Code to amend the zoning/future land use compatibility matrix, providing for severability, conflicts, and effective date and codifications.
Thank you.
All right, this is really a sibling presentation to the earlier one. This handles what happens inside the Land Development Code. As we discussed earlier, the future land use map does facilitate for overall density and direction of growth. Within our Land Development Code, we have inconsistencies to a matrix, which I'm going to show you on the next presentation, which is the intent of this ordinance. This is a matrix extracted from our compatibility matrix, which precedes all zoning. And what we will do with this ordinance is add if adopted and approved, add the new land use classifications to the matrix to pair up a land use which is compatible with the existing zoning. We will have a land use and zoning matrix that shows the 2.5 dwelling units per acre, the 1 per 5 dwelling units per acre, and the 1 per 1. And that's been reflected here, and it's also been discussed in the last presentation. So this is just one table or chart in our Land Development Code, which will be updated. We've reviewed this. It is consistent with our goals, objectives, and policies of the overarching comprehensive plan. And the purpose of this ordinance, again, is to help implement and clarify the previous ordinance 12-2024. It is recommended the City Council approve on the first reading this ordinance, or approve the first reading of this ordinance, to amend the Section 4.2 of the Land Development Code. And the implementation process is once ordinance 12-2024 is adopted and goes through its evaluation and is formal, we will update the Land Development Code Table 4.2 to reflect. Thank you.
Thank you. City Clerk, do we have public participation?
No, ma'am, we do not.
Councilmember Sell, questions or comments?
No questions.
Councilmember Papalardo?
No comments.
Councilmember Stevenson?
No questions, thank you.
Vice Mayor Butlin?
No, thank you.
And I have no further questions. I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the first reading of ordinance number 13-2024, amending the Land Development Code LDC to update the zoning future land use compatibility matrix in accordance with ordinance number 12-2024.
Second.
Vice Mayor Butlin?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Yes.
Councilmember Papalardo?
Yes.
Councilmember Sell?
Yes.
And I am a yes. Agenda item number 11, the staff is requesting the City Council approve the first reading of ordinance number 01-2024, amending the comprehensive plans, future land use element, and future land use map to change the future land use classification of certain properties into Southeast Mixed Use Area / Transit-Oriented Development Overlay District, and to provide for a TOD transitional area. City Attorney, would you read ordinance number 01-2024?
Yes, Mayor. Ordinance number 01-2024, an ordinance of the City Council of DeBary, Florida, amending the text of the future land use element of the City of DeBary Comprehensive Plan to amend Policy 5.406 to expand the Southeast, Mixed Use Area SEMUA / Transit-Oriented Development, TOD, future land use, and to provide for a transit-oriented development, TOD, core, outside core, and transitional area, amending the city's comprehensive plan, future land use map, the FLUM, by changing the future land use designation of multiple parcels of land located north of the Fort Florida Road intersection with U.S. Highway 1792, south of Benson Junction Road, east of Lake Conomac, and west of U.S. Highway 1792 from industrial service, IS, future land use, to Southeast Mixed Use Area, SEMUA / Transit-Oriented Development, TOD, future land use, and changing a portion of tax parcel identification number 900900010 located adjacent to and east of U.S. Highway 1792 from environmentally sensitive lands, ESL, to southeast mixed-use area, SEMUA/transit-oriented development, TOD, future land use, providing for conflict, severability, and an effective date.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's tough to follow, but let me try. This is our TOD expansion. We brought this as a discussion item in June of this year to the council. We received your feedback, and we're proceeding to draft the ordinance. How did we get here? Well, in 2010, the city established a transit-oriented development district, overlay district. Within that district, it was established that we will have 32 dwelling units at its densest part, and outside the core would be up to 20 units. Currently, so far, we've approved developments within that TOD and constructed some of those developments, including the Integra 289 Exchange, the Spring Walk at the Junction, the DeBerry Town Center, the Haven at DeBerry, DeBerry Town Park, and DeBerry Main Street. Although some have not undergone construction, these are developments which have been approved. Here's an extract from the table from our June discussion. I'm showing where we are with our densities. Even though we did have the potential of those developments shown on the screen to develop up to and over 1,200 units, their approval has been pared down to about 629 projects. So that's the current situation as we're faced. Looking at the rest of the TOD, what do we have? Well, we have the Sunrail Station, the physical hard stands and parking. We have a wooded land area south of that owned by Florida Power and Light. And we also have a 48-acre site which we believe will go into a K-8 public school on the southeast quadrant of the existing TOD. Roughly the 12 acres of developable land within the TOD is not really enough to meet the demand for our TOD development along and centered around our Sunrail Station. Along Shaw Road, there exist certain land uses which are incompatible with the TOD district, including warehousing, manufacturing, and outdoor storage. What this ordinance does, it does expand, as stated, the existing future land use and TOD overlay district. It provides boundaries of the TOD core, outside the core, and the new transitional area. It'll provide the following densities. On the chart, there's two densities which currently exist. One is in the TOD core, which, and I'll show you some maps on that, which ranges from a twin dwelling unit per acre minimum to a 32 maximum. We also have the existing TOD core, which does not change, nor does it outside the core area. The outside the core area is a 8 dwelling unit minimum and a 20 dwelling unit maximum. These are currently existing as density requirements. The TOD transitional area, which will be a new area created, will have a very low density or medium, really residential density between 8 dwelling units and a maximum of 10 dwelling units. Just the overall future land use as addressed, the amended portion will be north of the existing future land use, and then one small, kind of the center of the map is a 2.7 acre, which is on the intersection of Fort Florida Road and 1792 to the east of that intersection. That will be added also. How this breaks down, the illustrated area, the light blue, it's black and white here, and see the light blue and the green are what's currently existing, and then the crosshatch portion in the center is our TOD rail station. Around that we have the TOD core, which is the higher densities. The blue, which is already in our plan, is outside the core area, and then the yellow area is the area we discussed in June, adding to the TOD core, which would maintain a density of 8 to maximum of 10 dwelling units per acre, providing a good transition between our denser areas of the city and the remaining portion outside of that area. We've looked at infrastructure impacts, and it is in the mobility area, and a lot of that transportation demand is also paired out to pedestrian, bicyclist, and public facilities. Any potable water and sanitary sewer developed in the new area would be served by Volusia County, so there is adequate water and sewer for those areas. And there's, as we see, adequate infrastructure drainage in the area, and also any development in there, of course, would be required to go through any developmental review. We've also looked at solid waste. We've looked at that. We feel this would not have impact on that for our city. The open space requirements provided by the comprehensive plan would be applied, and the school capacity would go through its normal developmental process if developed. We find this ordinance compatible with our goals and objectives and policies in the rest of the comprehensive plan. As I stated, we did discuss this with the City Council, and we've been staffing this since June 3rd of 2024 to finalize council guidance on this. It is recommended the City Council approve the first reading of this ordinance, and if implemented, we will follow the large-scale comprehensive plan amendment, which again gets sent to the state and the state reviewing agencies for their take. And when it comes back within those 30 days or after that 30-day period, we will schedule a second reading of this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, City Clerk. Do we have public participation?
No, ma'am, we do not.
Councilmember Sell, questions and comments?
No questions.
Councilmember Papalardo?
No comments, thank you.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Just to repeat the comment I had made during the previous discussion, I drove through here, and this is absolutely needed. It's not going to change anything immediately, but as the Main Street area develops, I think that this is going to fit better than having the warehouse in current situation. So I'm in favor.
Vice Mayor Butlin?
I echo that. It's a good housekeeping, house cleaning, whatever you want to call it, situation. And I think getting it done now is the best way to do it.
I would say, for the benefit of those who weren't here for the June discussion, this is the area that has things like Crush and Dave's Fence and other kinds of industrial uses primarily. But what's important to understand is that with this change, no one is being forced to do anything about their business that they currently run. They could continue their business as it is for 100 years if it was continuous business. There is nobody being forced to do anything. But as the development around the Sunrail is completed, we think that the economics of the situation will present opportunities for the people who own these businesses in this land to sell their properties for redevelopment. And at that time, that is when these regulations would come into effect. And so there was a substantial discussion that we did not want this transitional area to have as dense an entitlement as the core area does. And so this proposal reflects those strong feelings by the council that this had to be a step down in density. The only side thing that I would say is back on your slide with the crosshatch showing what's affected. That
Just wait. Oh, there we go.
nope, that's not it. It's the one before that.
Okay.
There it is. That little piece that you said is an affected area, it's not shown on your next map with a color, but it goes to core, correct?
That would be
Core.
Core, correct.
Okay. I just wanted to,
Good
in
catch.
case anybody in the audience saw that and said, now on this it's not in it, that would not go to yellow, that would go to core. And that land actually, the conservation features of that land will be multiplied times 10. When that comes into core densities, 20 acres goes under conservation elsewhere in DeBerry to compensate for those 2 acres going into development. So we get a multiplier of 10 in land conserved, and it's not land that has substantial wetlands features or anything. It just happens to be the edge of a parcel that had those
Correct.
features. That, City Manager?
Yes, Mayor, just a couple more things. That 2.17 acres is part of our exchange agreement.
That's what I was referring to,
Yeah.
but I didn't, we have people here who don't know what the exchange
Right,
agreement is.
and its requirement to put it inside the TOD, as well as in future meetings, you will see that there will be an amendment to the DeBerry Town Center PUD.
Correct.
to add that 2.17
Right.
acres to their PUD. We're going through a little longer process than just this ordinance with that, but that will be coming in the future, next meeting, we hope. And also want to talk about traffic impacts. The density here from 8 to 10 is really just an exchange for the traffic impacts that are now currently existing with the industrial.
Right, there's plenty of traffic there. It's big, heavy trucks.
Oh, yeah, 100,000-pound trucks
Yeah.
that are 60 or 70 a day at least, that are going in and out of there. And so anybody worried about traffic impacts with this exchange, it's really just exchanging from industrial traffic to residential. So.
Right, so it will be lighter vehicles, and we don't have the math yet, but it's a sort of a toss-up as far as volume, because those businesses, if you're down on that side of town, you will see the dump trucks and the large vehicles going in and out of there all day long. So residential cars and pickup trucks are likely to have lesser effect on the roads. That's unusual when you think of development of land. You think of that's going to be a whole bunch more traffic. In this case, the current use, which could continue on if the business chooses to stay as they are, there is nothing the city is doing to change that. But we do believe that at some point, someone will come to them and say, would you consider doing your business somewhere that doesn't have townhouses next door? If we gave you money for your place, and they might well say, yeah, we want to do that. And then this will all be in place to govern how that would be developed. So if there's no further discussion, I would entertain a motion.
Go. All right. I make a motion to approve the first reading of ordinance number 01-2024, amending the comprehensive plans, the plan, future land use element, and future land use map, plume, to change the future land use classification of certain properties to Southeast Mixed Use Area, SEMUA, Transit Oriented Development, TOD Overlay District, and to provide for a TOD transitional area.
Second.
Vice Mayor Butlin?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Yes.
Councilmember Papalardo?
Yes.
Councilmember Sell?
Yes.
And I am a yes.
There we go.
Agenda item number 12, the staff is requesting the City Council approve the resolution number 2024-15, amending the Main Street DeBerry Transit-Oriented Development Project Mixed Planned Unit Development, MPUD, to revise the deadline for the construction of Phase 1 and Phase 2. We need to read resolution number 2024-15.
Resolution number 2024-15, a resolution of the City of DeBerry, Florida, amending the Main Street DeBerry Transit-Oriented Development Project Mixed Planned Unit Development, MPUD, approved by ordinance number 03-2023 to revise the deadline for the construction of Phase Roman 1 and Phase Roman 2, providing for severability and an effective date.
Thank you.
And thank you very much. Stephen Bapp, Growth Management Director. I'll be giving this presentation. Okay, the current situation is the ordinance 3-2023 was adopted on the 19th of April 2023. The agreement currently stipulates that the construction of Phase 1 shall occur no later than 3 years from the effective date of the MPUD, and Phase 2 should be completed no later than 2 years after the Phase 2 closing. What this resolution does is amend the development agreement to push the two deadlines back or to a later date of 12 months into the future. We've analyzed the data, see it has no significant input or impact, and we find it is compatible with the goals, objectives, and policies of the comprehensive plan, as well as the original intent of the MPUD. Thus, it is recommended the City Council approve Resolution 2024-15 to extend the deadline for the construction of the DeBerry Main Street MPUD. The implementation, the development agreement would be officially amended once approved, as this is a resolution and not an ordinance. So one reading and one reading only. Thank you.
Did we have any map to show people what it is we're talking about?
Now, can you go back to the last presentation, please? Thank you. So, on this presentation, if you see on the map on the right-hand or left-hand side, as you're looking at the screen, you see a green area. with the, what says Mosaic Main Street. So it's the area west of 1792, north of Fort Florida Road, and really the southern half of the TOD district. This is the Mosaic Main Street. Within that, there's a portion of green, which is really probably the southern 2/3 of that map is the phase 1, and the northern 1/3 of that map roughly is the phase 2. We haven't done the closing on phase 2 yet, but we've done the closing on phase 1, and they're undergoing their developmental planning, financing, equipment, all that type business. So this is the same as extending a development order, but instead we're changing one paragraph within the original development agreement.
So this would take the development of the first phase to 3 years from now, and the next one, 6
What?
years?
No,
I'm trying to do the math in my head, because
Okay.
we don't have it here.
No, I think right now that the deadline date for the current master development agreement is April 2026.
Okay.
And this extends it to April 23rd, 2027, which is a one-year extension. And so the developer has made a request due to the,
It's about 3 years
yes.
from
it goes
now instead of 2 years from now.
Right.
And the other one is another
Another
year
2
out
years
as well.
Yeah, 2 years out. And that's already in the Phase 2 contract that we've
Right.
approved a while back. A lot of things are changing with this
Sure.
development and everything else. The request was made to extend it 1 year because of the debt market and the request from the private equity investors and the debt market to make sure that it's covered, they get this project completed by April of 2027. So.
Okay, thank you. I think that clears it up for me. Council members, do we have any public participation, City Clerk?
No, ma'am, we do not.
Council member Sell, questions or comments?
I know we're going to give them some more headroom. Is there a possibility it will still get completed before the deadline?
Yeah, I think April 2027, I think the project will get done by then. We're pretty close, working on some final details. If there's a possibility that some of the things may get accelerated, simply because of we're needing some additional parking there, and so we're working on some negotiations right at the present time, and working into a final mobility plan agreement and everything else. So there's a lot of things in negotiation. So yeah, will this get done by April 2027? Yeah, I think it will. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Papalardo.
Thank you. Just a clarifying question, probably for the city manager. This only changes the timeliness of the contract, no other aspects of the scope of the project?
No other changes to the scope of the project or anything else, just
Thank you.
changing the deadline.
Thank you. We're in a really challenging lending environment right now. I think everyone's aware of that. And it looks there might be some easing coming, so hopefully.
Well, some information, just to give everybody a little environment there, some of the construction loans are double-digit percentage-wise, and so it makes it very difficult time-wise, and so given that one-year extension gives them a little more flexibility to make sure that they get the project done and done right.
Very good. I'm not willing to roll a dice on a development with a new agreement should this not materialize. I think we should feel compelled to see this through even with a delay. So that's it for my comments. Thank you.
Councilmember Stevenson?
I think the key phrase is to get it done right, and if they need to wait for the lending opportunities and the financing to get it done right and not just lower the quality, I think that I'm fine with this extension.
Well, when I talk about the acceleration, there's a possibility of doing it all at once rather than two phases, and so that's what we talk about the acceleration. So phase one would be April 2027. Phase two is a couple of years after that. There's a possibility when we get through negotiation, it's all done all at the same time.
That's not bad either.
Yeah. So.
Vice Mayor Butlin?
Well, I agree with all that's been said. I'm not going to deliberate any more on it, but I'm excited that they're willing to still work on this. So it's good to not have them want to pull out.
And I have no further questions. I thought that for the clarity for those in the audience, without knowing what it was we were talking about, we ought to get that up front.
Yep.
So if there's no further discussion, I would entertain a motion.
Move to approve resolution number 2024-15, amending the Main Street DeBerry Transit-Oriented Development Project Mixed Planned Unit Development to revise the deadline for the construction of Phase 1 and Phase 2.
Second.
I'm going to give it to
Go ahead. William said that.
Councilmember Papalardo?
Yes.
Councilmember Sell?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Butland?
Yes.
And I am a yes. We're moving into new business. The city manager is requesting the city council approve the proposal from Inliner Solutions of Sanford, Florida for pipelining services.
Good evening, Mayor Chazé and Vice Mayor Butland and City Council. My name is Kevin Hare, and my company is K. Hare Construction Services. And the purpose of this proposal is for pipelining services to rehabilitate existing stormwater piping in the Glen Abbey subdivision. The City of DeBary entered into a piggyback agreement with the Inliner Solutions LLC on July 3rd, 2024. The piggyback agreement is predicated on the Volusia County Master Agreement number 750-4140-2 and intent to bid ITB 22-B-41HO for pipelining services. Based on preliminary closed-circuit TV inspections of the stormwater piping, staff developed a scope of work for the initial phase, or phase 1, of the pipelining services to rehabilitate the stormwater piping in sections of the Glen Abbey subdivision. Inliner Solutions met with our staff and at the sites and developed their scope of work and reviewed the scope of work and developed their proposal based on that, and their proposal is dated July 1, 2024. Phase 1 of the pipelining services includes a total of 2,662 lineal feet of pipelining services for a total proposed amount of $334,525.00. Funding for the proposed pipelining services shall be drawn from a $750,000 grant from the Florida legislature that is budgeted from the Stormwater Fund. Recommendation is made for City Council to approve Inliner Solutions LLC proposal dated July 1, 2024 for pipelining services in the amount of $334,525.00. Regarding implementation, Inliner Solutions has stated that they would expect to mobilize within about 60 days to do this work. So sometime around middle of October, I would suspect they'd be doing this work, and it would take about 30 days to do the job. So with that, I would answer any questions you may have.
City Clerk, do we have public participation?
No, ma'am, we do not.
Councilmember Sell, questions and comments?
No questions.
Councilmember Papalardo?
No questions.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Just one real quick question I think the city manager could probably answer. These are all public stormwater pipes, correct?
Yes, the Glen Abbey subdivision, and as you know, we've been working on this for 4 or 5 years. The Glen Abbey subdivision and the Summerhaven subdivision were both constructed and platted in 1972. They were built with corrugated metal pipe rather than concrete. We are back in 72 when we were doing subdivisions, because I do see some DeBary Plantation board members here. When the subdivisions were approved by the county back in those days, they accepted responsibility for all the stormwater projects. When we came in, and that changed in the 1980s.
And there is documentation for that?
Yes, there is.
Okay.
And so when I came in April of 2019, that's when we basically got notified that the pipes were collapsing over there. I want to make very clear that all the money that's coming for this particular project and forward is actually grants that we received from the Florida legislature. They are not coming from the stormwater. Even though that's been deposited in the stormwater fund, coming out of the stormwater, they will be reimbursed by the state of Florida. And so the money has come from the Florida legislature through great efforts and lobbying efforts with them. So the state of Florida has now contributed over $1.5 million toward the rehabilitation of Glen Abbey and Summerhaven. So we appreciate our elected officials working so hard for us in Tallahassee to rehabilitate that. The stormwater pipes have reached their end. They're rusting, and they need to be lined so that we can preserve them for the next 30 years. So.
Okay. Anything further?
That was it, thank you.
Vice Mayor Butland?
Nothing further, thank you.
Okay, and I don't have any further questions. If there's no additional discussion, I would entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the proposal from Inliner Solutions of Sanford, Florida for pipelining services. Do I need to say the amount?
Yeah, you can say the amount, yeah.
The amount of $334,525.
Second.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Butlin?
Yes.
Councilmember Sell?
Yes.
Councilmember Papalardo?
Yes.
And I am a yes. The next item under new business is the staff is requesting the City Council approve the Neil Schaefer proposal to provide post-design services for DeBerry Fire Station Number 39 in the amount of $107,253. I'll get it right.
Good evening, Council. Richard Villasenor, City Engineer. The purpose is to provide the architect, engineering, construction phase services both to the city as the owner and to the contractor who's doing the actual construction. Post-design services are monitoring for the conformance of the design intent of the construction plans, also keeping the design liabilities with the design team. And this is for covering all aspects of the design, civil, architect, mechanical, engineering, structural systems. What these include are, for example, reviewing and processing of shop drawings. Shop drawings are the catalog, marked up catalog information that's put together before components are actually purchased or manufactured, just to ensure that you don't purchase the wrong product or have to throw away something that's manufactured incorrectly. Attend regular meetings. This is to keep them plugged in and make sure that any discrepancy in the construction plans for whatever reason come up, that they are able to assist and fill in the gaps with the design intent. Review and processing of requests for information, substitution requests, change orders, and also help review pay applications. Perform site inspections and oversight at various construction stages for any given system. Again, this is a third party that's, from the design standpoint, is assisting and helping with the inspections. Final certifications of constructed systems and closeout or transfer of issued permits to the operation and maintenance phase, such as the Stormwater St. Johns River Water Management District permit, for example. These services were originally included in the original fire station design contract a few years ago, but of course were later withdrawn as the bid strategies changed for this project. The services were we believe that those services were still in fact in the contract, but so they were left out of the May 1st council meeting. Of course, we've gone back and confirmed, and they in fact were removed years ago. Warren Smith, the construction manager, has identified in their construction contract and verbally that they could not assume these roles because they were not involved in the design stage of the contract. The city has issued the notice to proceed to Wharton Smith, and also the building permit has been applied for by Wharton Smith. And then right now we do have various of these shop drawing submittals to the architect for their review and just pending approval. They are processing a few in advance of this approval. And the funding for this proposal will be fully covered under the general funds. And then the recommendation is that City Council approve Neil Schaefer's proposal to provide post-design services in the amount of $107,253 with 0 cents and authorize the city manager to execute the agreement. This will be effective upon council approval, and I will answer any questions.
Okay. Just a point of clarification for those who may be here and not familiar. It didn't sound like there was a bidding process for this because Neil Schaefer has a standing relationship with the city that was gained through a very competitive bidding process, and we have standard rates that when we engage Neil Schaefer, they provide us. Is that correct?
Correct. Neil Schaefer is one of 3 continuing services contracts that we have that we went out for in 2020.
Right.
So these are 5-year contracts with 1-year extensions, if I'm...
Right. I thought that would just be clarifying because you might expect that there was a list of bidders if it was such a purchase.
Correct.
Okay. City Clerk, do we have any public participation?
No, ma'am, we do not.
Councilmember Sell, questions and comments?
No questions.
Councilmember Papalardo.
No questions, thank you.
Councilmember Stevenson.
No questions.
Vice Mayor Butland.
No questions.
And I have no further questions either. I think we are all anxious for Fire Station number 39 to break ground and for this to proceed, and we certainly want it done right. We had
Announcing that
an
date?
experience with our existing fire station where some things were not done right, and then cleaning up after that is much more expensive, in my view, than doing it right the first time. City Manager, did you want to make
Amen.
a comment?
Amen.
Okay.
Are we announcing the date? Are we announcing the date?
Well,
Oh, you will.
Okay. If there is no further discussion, I would entertain a motion.
Move to approve the Neil Schaefer proposal to provide post-design services in the amount of $107,253 and authorize the city manager to execute the agreement.
Second.
Councilmember Papalardo?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Butland?
Yes.
Councilmember Sell?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Yes.
And I am a yes. So this moves us to member reports and communications. Councilmember Sell, do you have anything to report or communicate?
Kurt, I got a question for you. So we were handed this evening. Because we're in litigation, we can't have anything put on the agenda.
You mean the document he handed in? Let me just see. I'm sorry, what's the question?
Well, they are asking us to have something put on the agenda in September so we could have a discussion on what's currently going on between you and the other lawyer.
Correct.
So what I'm asking is because we're currently still in litigation, we can't really have a discussion.
You certainly can in open public, but my strong suggestion is that you do not want to do that. I think there's a lot of different avenues to deal with this. If we want to have an executive session, we can do that. There's certainly there can be other discussions and avenues for communications that I think probably best that I talk to the city manager about that, and then come back to the city council with any suggestions or recommendations. But having an open discussion when we're in and you heard the threats from the lawyer. If you don't do what we want, here's 4 more lawsuits. And anyway, so that's not, in my opinion, conducive to good negotiations. But my suggestion is let me talk with the city manager, and then we will strategize, get back, and let the council know what our suggestion is. You certainly have the power to have an open meeting, but my experience has been, especially when you've got so many different people and so many different things involved, it just creates an opportunity for disaster. So unfortunately, I think the best protocol is to let's do this in a measured, contemplative fashion and find the best way to, if there are some avenues, and it sounds like they've reached out. I'm not sure I think the council liked the way they reached out, but the way they have reached out, notwithstanding that, and I think I need to discuss that with the city manager, and then we'll come back to you all. Whether it's September or not, see, this is...
Well, and they have reached out, and we have reached back to conduct a meeting with our attorneys present. They have not responded back to agree to that, so but the offer is still there. It still stands. So that they still have the agreement that we'd be glad to meet as long as our attorneys are available and as long as the appeal process is still running. And so that's the recommendations from our attorneys, and I, as the city manager, are going to honor that. So
just to be clear, before we take the council's temperature on whether they even want to do this and put it on an agenda, wait to hear back from you and Kurt on what we can and can't do.
certainly, because there's things that can be said publicly that they can use in the appeal and everything else, and so there's too much risk there of whatever's said or whatever's discussed can be used against the city or against the homeowners association as well. So there's their risk on their side as well.
It might be helpful to give us maximum flexibility in our discussions is for Carmen and I to have a discussion separately with each council member, not moving information back and forth, but so that you can have a one-on-one rather than an executive session, because there are strong limitations on the executive session. It's limited to that proceeding and that proceeding only. And I think what is at issue goes beyond that. So it's a little more complicated. So I'll speak with Carmen. My suggestion is the council wait to hear from us. And I think my thought is a one-on-one, without other council members present, that we have that discussion. That'll allow you to have all your questions answered, and any suggestions you might have, we can deal with it then. And then if we need to have a public discussion and a meeting with, a presentation by the HOA, then that might make sense. But I would not entertain that at this point publicly.
Thank you.
Good question.
Councilmember Papalardo.
I actually have a little bit of, I don't think I want to seek a consensus tonight, but something that we could possibly consider for the special meeting to consider for September. I've had this conversation with a couple members of the board, is that I don't think it's appropriate to have the exchange of a discussion while we're under litigation. I think personally, I don't behave like that if I was being sued. I work for an insurance company. I know better than to do that. What I would like to get on everyone's radar that we can consider next week from the future perhaps is the opportunity for the HOA to have a non-business item in the presentation portion prior to the business parts of the meeting, kind of like when we have a presentation from a check from the state legislature or a nonprofit organization that wants to tell us about their outreach programs. If they would granted perhaps 15, maybe 20 minutes max to see their side, because their side has been absent from council right now, despite there have been independent routes to get the information out there. There has not been an opportunity to present findings from their end to the board. That's something I want to at least broach here. I'm not ready to see consensus for that yet, though.
Okay. Anything else?
That's it.
Okay. Councilmember Stevenson?
Nothing to report, thank you.
Vice Mayor Butland?
Always. I always have something to say. I attended the Volusia League of Cities dinner last week, I think, or maybe 2 weeks ago now, I don't even know anymore, which was very well attended out in South Daytona. I'm looking forward to our ComStat meeting with the sheriff tomorrow, and next week I will be leaving for a conference representing the city of DeBary as a delegate.
Thank you.
And making the arrangements to go there. I'll be there from Wednesday to Sunday of next week. So looking forward to that. It's down in Hollywood, so adios, people.
Yes. Well, I do want to thank you for attending that. It is a meeting that doesn't work for me for many reasons, and I think it's important that the city of DeBary be represented, and I'm sure you'll do a great job doing that. This is political season. I've attended various events showcasing candidates. The only thing that I would say to our residents is please remember to vote in the primary. There are a number of positions that are up for grabs this season, and you should do your research and participate in this process is my advice. I have a question for the lawyer on this proposal, which is not one that fits with the format of our meeting or things that we do on the fly. But I'm a bit curious about a proposal that the city agreed to abate an appeal. The appeal was filed by the association. That's a process that doesn't seem to, from my layman's knowledge of the court system and any experience that I have, it's rather unusual, I would think, for the defendant to abate a process. Am I reading that incorrectly?
No, you're right on, Mayor.
So
it was funny that he asked us to do that the way he asked it. So
yeah, the request for a motion was that we would agree to abate.
they filed the challenge.
They filed the case. So I don't know how a defendant abates a case against them, but that may just be my lack of understanding, and I just wanted to mention that was a difficult concept for me. And perhaps as you discuss with the city manager, and then we do follow-up. I don't want you to think that you weren't heard. You were heard, but we have processes and we have responsibilities to be very careful with the city's actions in a legal sense. So that was my question that I had for you, and I have no further activities to report. City manager?
Yes, Mayor. Thank you. If you don't mind, get your pencils out. Since we're so close to starting the fire station, we thought it would be appropriate to do the groundbreaking ceremony on September the 11th, 2024, at 10 a.m. And I can't think of anything better to not only open the fire station, but to honor our fallen firefighters. And so we were planning on doing groundbreaking on September the 11th, 2024 at 10 a.m. We do have commitments from dignitaries coming on site.
On site.
On site, yep.
And this will be parked at Sunrail, and we'll have shuttles or something?
We'll give you all the details. We'll work on those things out. Want to let you know on August 14th, you don't have to write this down, but August 14th is the Alexander Island ECHO Committee eligibility meeting. It's going to be held in Port Orange in the afternoon. We don't know the exact time as of yet, but the ECHO Committee eligibility meeting is being held on August 14th in Port Orange, and Alexander Island is one of the items on the agenda. So we'll get a good feedback on from the committee on what their thoughts are, and we're expecting positive results there. And just finally, tomorrow morning at 8:30, right here in this room, we have a ComStat meeting with the sheriff. He presents all the crime statistics, et cetera, and tomorrow morning. So that's all for
Okay.
me.
City Attorney, do you have anything further to report?
Pass, Mayor, thank you.
Hearing no additional business, we stand adjourned.